A very good afternoon to all. Today I am going to express about the modes of trade. International marketing should understand how many types of trade or modes of trade are existing. Exporting is a traditional and well-established method of reaching foreign markets. Export means conceptual meaning of it is to ship the goods and services out of the port of a country. So seller of such goods is referred to an exporter who is being in the country to export, whereas the overseas based buyer is referred as importer. In international trade, exports refer to selling of goods and services produced in home country to other markets. So export goods and services are provided to foreign consumers by domestic producers. As such exports mean physical export of any goods. Export means include services also. It is now exporting commonly require coordination among four players: exporter, importer, transporter, government. Why we need to export? To increase sales and profits. So a company is performing well in the domestic market, so it needs expansion into foreign market. It will move profitably. Companies, they reduce dependence on existing domestic markets, so expand internationally. So export helps small companies to grow and become more competitive in other markets, other foreign markets. By expanding into foreign markets, companies no longer held captive to economic changes, consumer demands, seasonal fluctuation within the domestic country. By exporting, production capacity or length of production may increase, thereby decrease average per unit cost and increase economies of scale. So exporting is proven to enhance competitive advantage that benefit new exposure to technologies, methods, processes. The country will benefit from an improved balance of trade. It is also estimated more workers depend upon export for their jobs. So, our 1 in every 5 manufacturing jobs, 20% depend on exports. Exports represented 11% of US gross domestic product. Now, how many types of exports are there? How many types of exports? Third-party exports. That means port made by an exporter or manufacturer on behalf of another export. Here, shipping bills prepared in the name of both export manufacturer and exporter. Re-export. That means taking out of good to a place outside India. It does not specify as to what form of these goods, whether indigenous goods or imported goods. So it includes re-export of imported goods in any form or condition with or without any processing of manufacture, repacking, labeling. Export of such goods imported against payment in freely convertible currency would be permitted against payment in freely convertible currency. Replacement exports. That means goods or parts thereof on being exported and found defective or damaged or otherwise unfit for use, replacement free of charge by the exporter, and such goods shall be allowed clearance by the customs authorities provided that the replacement of goods are not restricted in the aforesaid ITC classification of export-import policy items. Goods or part thereof on being exported and found defective, damaged or otherwise unfit to use may be imported for repair or subsequent re-export. They are allowed clearance without a license and in accordance with the customs notification issued on this behalf. Consignment. Export can be categorized according to system of payment. Consignment, it has further divided into outright exports. Means most of the exports are made on outright sale basis against firm price, where no return or unsold goods is made. Consignment export means sale or return basis, where the importer abroad is at liberty to return the unsold goods, although exports may or may not be against firm price. However, there is a risk of no sale and consequent return, and also on receipt of sale proceeds. So the bank in such country forwards shipping documents to their overseas branch or correspondence with instructions to deliver the documents only against trust receipt. Undertaking to deliver sale proceeds by a specific date. This practice is followed even if, according to the practice in certain trades, a bill for the part of estimated value is drawn in advance against such exports. In case of goods exported on consignment, freight and marine insurance must be arranged in domestic country. Now, deemed exports means those transactions which goods are supplied, they do not leave the country. Means essential characteristics of same to be considered as deemed export. That means transaction may involve any item, product only and not service. Item do not leave the country. Means exported outside India, if it goes out, the transaction will be termed as physical export. Now, what happens with the passive and aggressive exporting? There is a distinction between passive and aggressive exporting. Passive exporter, he awaits orders, come across by chance. An aggressive exporter, he develops marketing strategy which provide a broad and clear picture of what the firm intends to do in the foreign market. Export contracts means general agreement between the seller making an offer and a buyer making an acceptance. So acceptance should be unqualified, and any variation in this regard as a repudiation of the contract. So the export contract should be very explicit regarding goods and specifications, price, mode of payment, storage, package, delivery, schedule, and so on. Normally, the contract is sent with a pro forma invoice by any mail, by airmail. Although contracts may be oral or partly in writing and partly by words or mouth, it is always safer for the exporter to produce his items of selling in writing and obtain the signatures of the buyer or authorized representative. Now, special trade terms of export sales. X works, X warehouse, X store means it is an arrangement most favorable to the seller who desires to conduct export trade as closely as possible on the line of home market sales. That means overseas buyer or his agent must collect the goods at place where the seller works and where his factory, warehouse, store is situated. The seller must provide goods of the contract description and place them at the agreed collection point. A notice must be given to buyer to collect. Next, free on rail or free on truck. So the seller has little to do with the actual exportation of the goods and many overseas risks, but unlike the above, the goods are not collected at the seller's doorstep but have to be delivered by them into the custody of the railway or transport authority at an agreed point. So seller under FOR or FOT contract normally to procure the railway wagon or other means of transport. Free alongside ship. This involves certain elements like which are absent in sale in home market. The seller will have performed his obligation when the goods are carried alongside the ship so that they can be placed on board. The actual loading of the goods is the responsibility of the buyer. Under FAS contract, free alongside ship contract, the duty to nominate an effective ship falls on the buyer. Once the seller has placed the goods alongside a ship, it is customary way and at the agreed time, all subsequent expenses cost to be met by the buyer. Free on board and name of the port shipment, FOB. The seller assumes other responsibility, like he undertakes to place the goods on board a named ship at a named port at a berthing place. All charges, including the delivery of goods over to ship's rail, have to be borne by the seller, while the buyer has to pay all subsequent charges such as storage of goods, boarding of ship, freight, marine insurance, as well as unloading charges, import duty, consular fees, incidental charges due to arrival of the consignment on the port of destination. This is a very ordinary. This is differ from ordinary sale in home market, where no delays in a port have to be carried out. Cost insurance freight. A sale of document of title. A buyer is under an obligation to pay against the shipping documents even if the goods do not arrive. So the right of the buyer where the goods have not arrived is to sue the contract of carriage or insurance which is assigned to him by the seller under the contract of sale. If the goods are lost from peril not covered by ordinary policy of insurance current in the trade, the buyer must nevertheless pay the full price on the delivery of documents. The duty of seller under CIF contract are to ship at the port of shipment goods of description contained in the contract, to procure a contract of carriage by sea under which the goods will be delivered at the destination contemplated by the contract, to arrange contract of insurance on the terms of current in the trade for the benefit of the buyer, to make out an invoice of the goods and to tender within a reasonable time of the shipment the bill of lading, the policy of certificate of insurance, the invoice to the buyer, and the buyer may obtain delivery of goods if they arrive, or to recover their loss if they have lost on the voyage. So the bill of lading tendered must be currently state in the date of shipment, otherwise the buyer can reject the goods. Thank you.